Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a bold truth. You are not stuck. You are not finished. You are not too late. You are one decision away from a radically different life. One small shift, one small action, one tiny commitment, compounded daily, has the power to transform the trajectory of your life. We live in a world addicted to big moments, massive wins, sudden breakthroughs, overnight success. But the truth that often gets ignored is that greatness isn't built in a day, it's built daily. It's not the one-time decision that changes your life, it's the 1,000 small decisions that compound over time. The principle of 1% improvement each day seems insignificant at first glance, but it carries the weight of transformation when consistently applied. What looks like a minor adjustment today becomes a monumental shift over the course of a year, 5 years, a decade. It's the accumulation of those small, deliberate changes that creates unstoppable momentum. Small daily improvements rewire your brain. They realign your priorities. They begin to change your habits, shift your identity, and solidify your standards. When you make a conscious decision to get better each day, just a little, you stop waiting for permission or the perfect moment. You stop being reactive and start becoming intentional. The effort you put in may not produce fireworks immediately, but it builds something far more powerful, a foundation. And from that foundation, you build consistency, clarity, and confidence. Each step forward reinforces your belief that change is possible, that you are capable, that you are in control. Think of a plane changing its course by just 1 degree. Over a short distance, it looks like nothing. But over hundreds or thousands of miles, that 1 degree shift takes the plane to a completely different destination. The same principle applies to your life. One better decision each day, one more rep at the gym, one more page read, one more minute of prayer, one less distraction, redirects your entire path. What seems invisible in the moment becomes undeniable in the long run. You don't have to leap from point A to point Z. You just have to keep moving from A to B and let time do its work. The power of small improvement lies in its accessibility. Anyone can do it. You don't need more resources, more connections, or more talent to improve by 1% today. All you need is the decision to be just a little better than you were yesterday. That decision, when repeated consistently, becomes a lifestyle. And when growth becomes your lifestyle, progress is no longer accidental, it's inevitable. The pressure to perform perfectly fades, and in its place rises the quiet strength of intentional living. You begin to realize that the people who achieve mastery, excellence, and impact didn't get there because of giant leaps. They got there because they committed to steady, unrelenting progress. They embraced the ordinary and made it sacred. They understood that their success wasn't going to come from a single breakthrough moment, but from a long series of small breakthroughs. Breakthroughs that often look like boring, unnoticed work. Yet that work, done faithfully, became their superpower. The compounding nature of small actions is invisible at first, but it eventually becomes unstoppable. Small daily improvements are not just about skill or productivity. They're about self-respect. When you choose to invest in yourself daily, you're declaring that your life has value. You're telling the world, and more importantly, telling yourself that you're worth the effort. That belief fuels your discipline. It shapes your perspective. It drives you to take responsibility for your growth. And it cultivates resilience because when you've built your success one brick at a time, you're not easily shaken. Every small improvement also raises your standards. What was once acceptable no longer satisfies you. You begin to crave better. You begin to recognize the cost of staying the same. And slowly, without fanfare, you begin to separate yourself from the average. You begin to climb while others stay stagnant. You begin to build a life of intentional progress rather than accidental survival. You aren't relying on motivation anymore. You're operating from principle. And that shift in approach is what sets the successful apart from the stuck. It may not always feel rewarding in the short term. In fact, many days it will feel repetitive, thankless, and slow. But if you stay committed, you'll wake up one day and realize you've become someone you used to admire from a distance. You'll look around and see that the life you once dreamed about is now the life you're living, not because you did something grand once, but because you chose to do something small every day and refused to quit. Motivation is loud, exciting, and often fleeting. It comes with a surge of emotion, a burst of inspiration, and a temporary high that can make us feel unstoppable until reality settles in. Motivation whispers promises, but discipline delivers results. While motivation might get you started, it is discipline that keeps you going when the feelings fade, when the excitement dies down, and when the work becomes mundane. It is the quiet force that shows up whether it feels good or not. Discipline doesn't wait for convenience, it demands commitment. It thrives in the moments when quitting feels easier and pressing on feels painful. Flashy effort gets celebrated. People applaud the big gestures, the bold declarations, the overnight hustle. But consistency is built in silence. It doesn't seek attention, it seeks progress. Consistency is doing the same thing day after day, even when no one is watching. It's choosing to be excellent in private long before excellence is visible in public. Flashy effort often burns bright and fast, but it doesn't last. It's the person who's consistent that wins in the long run. They may not post about their grind, but their results speak louder than any announcement ever could. The danger with relying on motivation is that it's unpredictable. It fluctuates with moods, weather, opinions, and outcomes. But discipline is a decision, not a feeling. It's what you choose when you've already decided what matters most. When you're disciplined, you don't wait to feel like doing it. You do it because you've already decided it's part of who you are. And when you link your actions to your identity, you no longer negotiate with your goals. You execute not based on emotion, but on conviction. Consistency is the compound interest of effort. Just as money grows when it's invested over time, your skills, habits, and character grow when you invest steady effort. It's not the intensity of your action that determines your growth. It's the regularity of it. Reading 10 pages every day beats binge. Reading 100 pages once a month. Working out 3 times a week consistently outperforms a single intense, unsustainable week of exercise. Small, consistent action builds something that flash never can, momentum. There's something powerful about becoming the kind of person who can be counted on, especially by yourself. When you're disciplined and consistent, you build trust in your own word. You stop making empty promises to yourself. You stop starting over. You begin to believe in your own capacity to finish what you start. That self-trust becomes a weapon. It becomes armor against distraction, doubt, and delay. You no longer hope you'll make it. You know you will because your track record of showing up proves it. The world celebrates peak moments, but those moments are built in obscurity. The championship is won during early morning practices, not during the game. The book is written in quiet hours no one sees, not on the release date. The business is built in late nights and slow days, not in grand openings. Flashy effort shows up on stage, discipline lives backstage. It is in the private commitment, the invisible labor, the unglamorous grind where champions are formed. Every moment you choose discipline over distraction, you're building something that no applause can replace. Discipline also protects you from burnout that comes from overexerting for show. When you live in bursts of energy, you eventually crash. But when you live in steady rhythm, you endure, you learn to pace yourself for the long game. You understand that success isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And in marathons, the one who starts the fastest rarely wins. It's the one who stays consistent, keeps their form, and refuses to quit at mile 20 when everything screams to stop. Flash is impressive, but endurance is powerful. There will always be people who try to impress with sudden energy. They'll post, shout, and showcase their passion. But passion without process fades. It's the ones who embrace routine, who build systems, who prioritize habits that create lasting success. When your foundation is built on discipline, you don't fear low days because you know they're part of the process. You don't rely on outside approval because you're rooted in purpose. You don't need to prove anything because your fruit proves everything. Identity is not something fixed or final. It is not a label we're handed at birth or a personality we're stuck with. Identity is shaped, reshaped, and rebuilt every single day through the choices we make, the actions we take, and the beliefs we reinforce. We don't become who we are by accident. We become who we are by repetition. Every small decision you make, whether visible or unseen, is a brick laid in the construction of your character. You don't wake up confident, disciplined, or focused. You grow into those identities, one deliberate choice at a time. Each time you make a choice that aligns with the person you want to become, you cast a vote for that future version of yourself. And the more votes you cast, the more solid that identity becomes. When you wake up early to study, you're voting to become someone who values growth. When you choose to skip distractions and stick to your priorities, you're casting a vote for becoming someone who values focus. These may seem like small, isolated moments, but they are powerful signals to your brain and your spirit, reinforcing who you are becoming. Change doesn't require a full reinvention in one day. It starts with making new choices and refusing to repeat old patterns. The process of transformation is not always dramatic. In fact, it's usually quiet, subtle, and steady. It happens in the early mornings when you choose to prepare instead of sleep in. It happens when you decline the easy way out and take the narrow road of discipline. It happens when no one is watching and there's no applause, but you act with integrity anyway. Those are the choices that begin to rebuild who you are at your core. The struggle for many people is not the lack of desire to grow, but the failure to understand how identity really shifts. They think they need to change everything at once, but transformation doesn't come from making a huge leap. It comes from making small, repeated movements in the right direction. You build the identity of a reader by reading each day, not by finishing one book in one sitting. You become a leader by making decisions that serve others consistently, not by standing on a stage once. Who you are is built in what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally try. Even when you don't feel like you're changing, the compound effect of your choices is shaping you. Habits are more than routines. They are identity statements. When you commit to a habit, you're not just changing your behavior, you're confirming a belief about who you are. I'm someone who finishes what I start. I'm someone who keeps promises to myself. I'm someone who trains when it's hard. These beliefs don't emerge out of nowhere. They are earned through consistency. Over time, your subconscious begins to agree with your actions and your identity aligns with your decisions. One of the most powerful realizations is that your past does not define your identity, your patterns do. And patterns can be changed. You may have been inconsistent, undisciplined, distracted, or defeated, but those were behaviors, not identities. The moment you decide to act differently, even in the smallest way, you begin rewriting the story, and every time you follow through, you weaken the grip of the old identity and strengthen the foundation of the new one. You're not bound by who you've been. You are shaped by what you choose now. Rebuilding your identity requires awareness, intention, and repetition. You have to notice the default behaviors that no longer serve you. You have to interrupt the cycles that keep you small, and then you have to choose differently, not once but daily. The battle is rarely won in public. It's won in your mind when you choose to believe you can become more. It's won in your behavior when you prove that belief with action. Each time you honor that decision, you're no longer living out of reaction, you're living out of creation. Who you want to become is not some distant version waiting years away. That person is being formed right now in the choices you make today. Your future identity isn't waiting to be discovered, it's waiting to be built. And the only tools required are small, daily choices made with purpose and consistency. Each of those choices carries weight. They are not just decisions, they are declarations. Declarations of who you are, who you refuse to be, and who you are becoming with every act of alignment and every step of obedience. The difference between average and exceptional isn't always visible at first glance. It's not always a matter of talent, background, or opportunity. More often, it's a matter of inches, small choices, minor adjustments, repeated commitments made quietly behind the scenes. It's the accumulation of disciplined action and intentional focus that closes the distance between mediocrity and mastery. People often believe the exceptional are born with something extra, but the truth is they built that edge by doing the small things with excellence when others were satisfied doing just enough to get by. In a world where shortcuts and quick fixes are glorified, the inch-by-inch journey seems too slow, too quiet, too unglamorous. But the secret is hidden in the repetition of small advantages. One more rep in the gym. One more phone call in the business, one more hour of study, one more moment of focus. These are the inches that separate the committed from the casual. The exceptional don't always sprint ahead. They just refuse to stop moving forward. They refuse to accept average as a final destination, and so they grind through the inches that most people ignore. The average person often waits for ideal conditions or dramatic changes to feel like progress is happening. They want to feel it, see it, and celebrate it instantly. But the exceptional understand that mastery is often invisible at first. It's shaped in the spaces where there is no applause, no recognition, and no immediate return. The inch-by-inch mindset is one that values process over performance. It knows that slow progress is still progress, and that the only way to reach greatness is to close the gap with steady, intentional effort that compounds over time. It's easy to look at someone at the top of their game and assume they made a giant leap to get there. But what's often overlooked is the thousands of tiny steps they took when no one was watching. The early mornings, the late nights, the disciplined choices when quitting would have been easier. Those are the inches that built the gap. What we celebrate as overnight success is almost always the result of inch-by-inch effort stretched out over months and years. The road to exceptional is paved with decisions made in the ordinary moments. When you commit to moving forward inch by inch, you stop comparing your journey to others. You stop being intimidated by how far someone else has gone because you understand that every master once stood where you are. Every expert was once a beginner, and every exceptional life was built 1 inch at a time. The person who moves with daily intention may not stand out at first, but over time, their foundation becomes unshakable. While others fade out from burnout or distraction, the inch-by-inch mover keeps gaining ground. There's a quiet confidence that comes from embracing the inches. You no longer need motivation to keep going. You're fueled by clarity. You're not chasing a moment of glory. You're building something durable. And that durability comes from mastering the mundane. You don't need to take massive leaps to change your life. You need to consistently take the next right step. You need to close the gap not with force, but with faithfulness to the process. The exceptional are not those who had an easier path. They're the ones who never stopped moving, even when it was hard, slow, or boring. Every inch you gain makes you stronger. Every inch you fight for builds resilience. Every inch of progress, no matter how small, is evidence that you're no longer settling for average. You begin to think differently, act differently, and carry yourself differently. Inch by inch, your mindset sharpens, your habits shift, and your results start to align with your efforts. While others wait for the leap, you're building a staircase, 1 step at a time, 1 inch at a time, upward and forward. The truth is, most people never reach exceptional because they're unwilling to commit to the inches. They want the destination without enduring the process. But the inch-by-inch mindset understands that greatness is a grind. It's not about giant victories. It's about small, daily wins stacked with consistency. It's about doing what most won't so you can live how most can't. The gap between average and exceptional is not a chasm. It's a series of inches, patiently crossed by those who are willing to show up every day and take the next step. Intentions are powerful, but they are not enough. Everyone intends to change, to grow, to improve. Everyone has moments where they dream of a better future, whisper goals to themselves in the quiet, or promise to begin when the time is right. But intentions, no matter how sincere, don't create results. Actions do. Intentions live in your mind, but action lives in the world. You can spend days, months, even years planning, preparing, and thinking about taking the first step, but nothing changes until you move. The most well-crafted plan is useless without motion. We often delay action because we want everything to be perfect before we start. We tell ourselves we need more information, more confidence, more time, more support. But waiting for perfect conditions is a form of self-sabotage dressed up as wisdom. There will never be a perfect time. There will always be obstacles, unknowns, and reasons to delay. Action is what creates clarity. When you move, even if it's small, you learn, you grow, you discover what works and what doesn't. And more importantly, you send a signal to yourself that you are serious about change. Starting small is not weakness, it is wisdom. Massive change doesn't begin with massive moves. It begins with small, intentional actions taken consistently. You don't run a marathon the first day. You put on running shoes. You start with a walk, then a jog, then a mile. You don't build a business overnight. You start with one product, one client, one conversation. The small steps feel unimpressive, but they are the most powerful because they build the muscle of momentum. And once momentum is in motion, everything begins to shift. The gap between who you are and who you want to become can feel overwhelming. That's why small action matters so much. It breaks the paralysis. Instead of being frozen by the size of the vision, you take one piece of it and move. You open the book, you write the first sentence, you make the call. You set the alarm. It may not seem like much, but it's everything. Because action does more than move you forward, it changes your identity. Every time you act, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who follows through. Intentions are internal promises, but action is external proof. Talk without action is noise. Plans without movement are illusions. The world doesn't reward potential, it rewards results. Your intention might earn applause in conversation, but only your actions earn credibility. Only your actions transform your body, your finances, your relationships, your mindset. If you want your life to change, your choices must change. Not next week, not when things calm down. Now, in the middle of the chaos, in the middle of the fear, because power is found in motion. The beauty of starting now and starting small is that it silences the inner critic. Perfectionism loses its grip when you focus on progress, not perfection. Doubt weakens when you take action despite its voice. You stop needing to feel ready because you realize readiness is created, not found. You create readiness by doing. And the more you act, the more you build confidence, not from hype, but from evidence. Confidence is earned when your actions align with your ambitions, when your movement matches your message. Those who win in life are not always the most talented, the most prepared, or the most connected. They are the ones who move. The ones who were willing to look foolish in the beginning, the ones who embraced the awkwardness of starting, the ones who said, I'll figure it out as I go, and then did just that. They didn't wait to feel qualified. They acted and became qualified in the process. They didn't wait for validation. They created value and let the results speak for themselves. Movement made them. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to see the whole staircase. Just take the next step. You don't need a 5-year plan. Just take 5 minutes of focused action today. The world belongs to the doers, the starters, the movers. And the difference between where you are and where you want to be isn't a mystery. It's a decision. One act of courage, one step of faith, one small start that says, I'm done waiting. I'm done intending. I'm ready to move. Because action beats intention every single time.